Well, in television, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Trust me. Oops.
Oops, I know.
Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Can we do that again?
Take
Oh, it
3.
happens. It happens.
Oh, and probably cost a lot of money.
It only happens if you do it. It only happens once. You put big. Trust me, there are big pieces of tape you put on consoles and things that like start recording and stop recording. That's the other. It's both ends of it.
I bet.
So.
All right. Well, it is 1 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started and welcome everyone to our third session today. My name is Paul. I am a board member with STN, and I am very proud to be here today with Michael Mazzetti, who will be doing a session called "So You Want to Work in Television? Now What?" And what a perfect person to be talking about this. Let me give you a little background. Michael has been an audio engineer in Hollywood for close to 30 years. He worked for ABC Sports for 10 years, mixing most all types of sports. He has mixed for every major network and cable channel. Currently, he is the audio supervisor for Let's Make a Deal, a position he has held for 10 years. He has 4 Emmy Awards and 1 Grammy nominations for his work. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Mazzetti.
Someone read my bio well, so thank you. Hey guys, I can't see faces, which is the weirdest part of this whole event, but we'll just work through it. As I've told Mr. Cass, when I'm talking, I'm going to try not to ramble, and please, if you have a question or don't understand something I'm saying, let him know, because if at some point I'm going to go to a PowerPoint and I won't be able to see comments or questions, but Mr. Cass will, and he will stop me and read the question. So please do that, because I just don't want to be a total lecture.
And they can do that by putting in the Q&A or by raising their hand or in the chat. I'll be watching all 3 of those for you.
Cool, thank you, I appreciate it. All right, so as Mr. Cass says, yeah, I've worked in television for over 30 years, probably closer to 35. The weirdest thing about me is I have absolutely 0 formal schooling in broadcast or television production. I learned it back in the day, the old school way. I worked and I, read and I just worked my way up. I never took a class in television production, so it can be done that way. But there are so much more opportunities now, and there are so much more, I don't know the right word to be, just there are schools, there are job opportunities that are more than anything that when I started was even available. So I get it. My background's electrical engineering, by the way, because I actually worked in aerospace for 10 years. But trust me, I work in television and have more fun doing that. And if it's a job, if this is truly your passion, it'll come to the top. So I also, by the way, operate, I'm on the board of directors of what's called the PEG channel. It's SCV TV. It's in Southern California, up in Santa Clarita. It is a public educational governmental channel, and I am on the board with them. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because that's if you're working your way up, that's a great opportunity. Sometimes I know at our facility, we are generally, everyone we hire is either right out of college or even some right out of high school. So it's one of those things where it's sometimes your first job. So wherever you're at in the country, you got to find stuff like that. We'll talk about it in a bit. So with that said, and we've gone through the basics of what it is, I'm going to go and see if I can do this and get with share screen, PowerPoint. Let's see if this works. And hold on. Let's see. Are you seeing that, Mr. Cass? You seeing the PowerPoint?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so there it is. Well, let me go back a couple. Wrong way. That's just kind of some of the shows I've worked on. Some you recognize, most of them you don't, because they were on long before you were watching TV, but some of them you do. Obviously, Divorce, Let's Make a Deal is one. You might have known Family Game Night. Obviously, a lot of the award shows I've worked on, Oscars, Grammys, things like that. I've done a lot of sports, so that's just kind of an overview. That's me at my day at work. That's kind of one of the what I get to do. That's actually, I think that's doing an award show at the Dolby. I don't remember which one, but that's inside one of the a video production truck. So that's my audio console there. So that gives you an idea. This is what I always show people. It's basically, you have to make, you know, if you want to work in this business and you want to be able to do, you know, you're going to have to sacrifice weekends, you know, not being home for the holidays. It gets better as you work more in it, but it's just something you have to do. Just for your reference, by the way, because I don't know, I can see what's going up, and so it's a guess whatever the next slide will be. If you don't know what that is, that was my Pro Tools doing audio when I was starting this business. You literally cut and splice tape, and there was no undo button. So let me tell you, depending if you're using Premiere, whatever software program you have now, it is so much better and easier, and it allows you to make changes or experiment, and then if it doesn't work, go back. So that's the nicest thing about DAWs or any other kind of edit software you're working on. So I'm not a video editor, don't claim to be, will never say I was, but audio is my thing. But I'm going to be talking more generally about television production and a little more, it's going to be more general. I'm not really getting into audio. By the way, that was, that's, if you remember, that is basically what television film editing looked like not that long ago in the 80s, in the 90s. That's how they edited. So you cut and spliced as well, but you did it with film stock. Not fun. Again, same problems. Thank God those things are now in museums. When I started in television, my first job was working in sports, was doing sideline parab. If you know what that is you're basically on the sideline of a football game, and you're it's just following the game. It was by far the most fun I ever had. Doesn't pay well, was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. So, you know, that's just a little of my history. So just to let you know what I do for a living, again, as the A1 or the supervisor, I hire the crews, which includes everybody in the audio department. I'm the department head. I work with production companies to establish show requirements. I work with a PA mixer to create schematics for PA speakers, because it's a whole other, that's a whole other part of the business. I work with equipment vendors. I work with the post-production supervisors. I create show wiring interconnects and basically build the entire show in that respect. I oversee it all. I perform engineering setup on the start of every day. I work with the talent directors and producers, and the last thing I get to do is I mix the show. Really, mixing the show is the last thing you do. Everything else is up to it. So every job you have, the final job is only minuscule compared to everything leading up to it. So that was my basic reference to that. Here's the thing. You kind of know, if you want to work in this business, if you want to work, and I come from the entertainment end, but it's pretty much everything. There's film and there's television. Television has all these different, I call them, niches: news, sitcom, episodic, game talk, kind of that's where I live. Reality, soaps, sports, commercials, and studio. Now I've worked in other ones, and there is some bit of crossing, but generally I work in game show, talk show world. I don't do sitcoms. I don't do news. I don't do commercials. I don't do soaps. I've done stuff, but you kind of get tagged. So what I'm trying to say is that you kind of at some point need to not just say, I want to work in the entertainment industry. I need to define what area of the industry, because if you start working in, let's say sports, and eventually go, I really want to work in news. Well, you've got to be careful, because you get pegged. All your connections will be in sports. All your, your job offers will be coming from sports. So it's kind of a weird thing. You need to select where you want to work, whether it's news, and then really hone in on that. And I'll talk a couple ideas about that in a bit. All right, I just want to say this because everybody, when I do these in person, when we used to do the STN conventions, hopefully next year, one of the things I always ask everybody is, as I go, who wants to be a director, and everyone raises their hands, or who wants to be a cinematographer, and a bunch of them raise their hands. I'm just saying, yeah, there's a star, but there's a lot of jobs that you sometimes need to think about that is outside of what you maybe think you do. And I think I know what the next slide is. This is a slide of the crew at Let's Make a Deal where I work. So from Wayne Brady down to the people that do the cleaning, that's the crew. Now everyone says I want to direct or I want to produce. In this picture, there is one director. That's it. It's the guy down center, right behind Wayne Brady with the checkered shirt on. That's on good side. There's only one director. Whole show, one director. There's only two executive producers. There's a couple other producers, but there's 6 camera people there. There are probably 10 lighting. There are a handful of props. I know on audio, I have about 7 people. So I'm just saying, there's your crew for my little show. And there's only, so sometimes you want to think of other, not everyone can be a director because that's just how it is. It's just everybody, but there's a lot of other places that are just as much fun. They pay well, they are great jobs, and you can make a very good living and have a lot of fun doing it. So I'm just saying, sometimes you might not be what you think it is. Let's see what's next. Oh, okay, this is a great thing. This is who hires who. This is something I created that shows kind of, it starts with the network and the production company, and they create a show, and then they have to, they hire talent, and the production company, they hire the hair and makeup, and then the production company hires all the producers and production managers, and then between them, they hire the director, who in turn hires, in the red line, all those, and everyone that you see is red. And then so that's kind of how it works. And so now, if you want to be a camera person, or you want to be an audio person, getting a job as a grip or props or something doesn't get you there. Again, I'm always talking about being hyper-focused on what you really want to do. This is a later thing you'll have to tackle. You don't have to do it right now. You're not doing it in high school. Don't even worry about it. But I'm just telling you, you should have it in the back of your mind. Figure out what you like. And we'll talk a little more about that too. So here's some things in high school I would suggest that you do. First of all, do it all. Learn everything. Learn audio, video editing, video, lighting, videography, whatever. Learn everything. Get your hands on everything. The broader understanding, the better. This will also help you figure out what really is, what excites you. Like I said, turn knobs and press buttons, because there's nothing like operating stuff and doing it and creating something. Again, and you will make mistakes and you learn from them. I make them every day. On Let's Make a Deal, everything is isolated. I can literally fix everything. We have 11 videotape machines. Every camera is isolated, plus other things. So trust me, it happens. Don't worry about it. And so work with others. Volunteer at a PEG station in the area. That's where I'm going to talk about SCV-TV a little bit. Most cities have some sort of community access television station or something like that. Find it, volunteer there. Again, more equipment to get your hands on. It allows you to meet with like people. I know we do a lot of work at our facility with local schools and local students. And again, we have hired probably, we in our city of Santa Clarita, which is, I don't know, a couple 100,000 people. It's a pretty good sized little city. We've probably hired more first timers than any other local entertainment entity, and we're in LA. So it's a great place to get learn and build a resume. The other thing I'm going to go, and it depends where you live, but if you can go, I always ask kids, and especially in Southern California, have you ever gone and seen a TV show being taped, whether it be a sitcom, and they're looking for audience all the time, and none of them raise their hands. And I go, if you have a chance to go, whether it's a TV show or maybe go to your local TV station and watch them, allow you to watch them produce maybe the news, their daily news show, go do it, because it'll give you a chance to see everybody and what everyone's doing. And sometimes people will go, that looks like an interesting job. I want to know what is their title and how do I become that? So expose yourself. You can't just, try to find something and get out there and look at what professionals are doing, however you can do it. Some things about college. Where you go to school helps you where you end up is true for a lot of things. If you want to be a director, yeah, you go to USC because there's connections there. But generally, most community colleges have very strong programs. They are, you go to a four-year university, you probably don't get to touch any equipment for the first year to 2 years. Most community colleges, they throw you right in. So if anything, you can start at a community college and then transfer to a four-year program. But first of all, community colleges are cheaper, a little easier, get all your general ed and stuff out of the way. But it's also, you will sometimes learn more, and you will sometimes be ahead of the game when you go to a four-year college. Just a thought. I can't stress enough, get your hands on equipment. There is nothing like doing it. I always tell people, produce videos and get them out there. Create a YouTube channel, or whatever you do. Get videos out there so people can see them. Again, we're talking about colleges now. Kind of your idea about college, where to go, and you want to be able to meet people in the industry is never a bad thing. Whether it's news, whether it's entertainment, wherever you're at. And I always say, remember the 3 basic rules of where to go to college: internships, internships, internships. Because without an internship, you can have the best degree in the world, but you're not going to go anywhere. So remember, when you go to college, you need to do internships. That's where you generally will get your first job. In other words, when you're an intern, you sit there and you're working at or interning at a production company. When you graduate, they're the first place you'll send a resume or an application, because they already know you. And a lot of internships will just say, hey, when you graduate, call us back, we'll hire. That's how you meet people. Just remember that. Again, decide whatever you want to work in. And that's one thing we talked about earlier. It is tough because when you're young, it's like, which way do I go? And when I say do your homework and be a detective, if you want to work in documentaries, then you probably want to go to a school and maybe go to and do internships with a production company that's a documentary, that's their specialty. And the way to do that, and again, I always tell people, watch the credits of shows that interest you and find out who produces it. Generally, they're names that you won't know, because there's a lot of I call checking accounts in production companies that are just, they're just a subsidy. So the companies I work for, I work for Fremantle and CBS, but you wouldn't see that on my check. So know that, work the phones and contact production companies directly about internships. Some counselors will likely send you to whatever is the easiest internship they can find. So sometimes you need to do the homework and go find who that internship is and get that all, and then because this is your career, not the counselor's career. Some counselors are great and they will work with you, but some counselors are like, I got you an internship at the local TV station, but that's not what I'm going to do. So you have to do that. A lot of the professional organizations like Motion Picture, and I'm sure DGA and all these, all of them have some sort of periodical, some magazines or whatever, and they also might have some links to becoming for their e-blasts and things like that. because they want young people coming up. So there's almost all of them. So if you do want to be a director, go contact the DGA and see what they can do for you. Maybe they can, get their information, and then maybe there's where you can do some mentoring. Who knows? They're all slightly different. A lot of the unions and guilds have internship and training programs, and a lot of times they're open to everybody. There's some great instructional videos out there, but not just some guy, in his garage who's showing you how to, shoot a video. There are a lot of professional ones that are really well done. There's a website, moviola.com. Moviola is a company. They're an editing company. In fact, that old piece of gear I showed you is a Magnasync Moviola, but they have great training videos. So moviola.com is one that you might want to go look at their training videos and see what they do. It's done at a professional level, not at just some amateur level. And by the way, if someone tells you you can never get a job in the business by doing it that way, trust me, I'll find you someone who did. Don't be afraid. This is not like being a doctor or like being a policeman where you basically, there's paths. It's real simple. You go to school, go to med school, intern, and next thing you know, you're a doctor. No, this is totally different. There's 800 ways to get into this business, and no two are alike. So I'm just trying to help you understand that and be a little creative. This is some of my things I really going to tell you, and this is a big thing. Learn the craft, not the tool. And by that, I mean, like I said, don't learn every shortcut in Premiere or Final Cut. Learn how to edit and tell the story. And like I said, don't show me that you know everything about a Red camera. Learn how to light and compose a shot. Don't learn every Pro Tools plugin. Learn how to record and mix audio. The tool is secondary and it will change. Listen, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, Avid is still pretty much the editing software of choice, but Premiere is not far behind, and there are others, and there are specialty softwares depending if you're in news. And so, but if that's just a tool. Learn the craft. And I can't strive that enough. I have more people telling me that come to me looking for work and telling me what they have, not what they can do. So that's just something I can say. All right. Some things about because again, we're doing this in like 30, 35 minutes. So it's kind of like, I'm really going over this, but we're going to take questions hopefully at the end of this thing. And if no one, hopefully someone will have some. Not everyone gets to be the quarterback because it's a team sport. Just like I was telling you, not everyone's a director. And this is about you being new in a job in the industry. This is like rules for your first day of work. Be humble. No one cares what you know. And put in your dues. In other words, work your way up. That's how you get respect. Everyone I know who came into the industry, most everyone I know came into the industry because they had a major connection and kind of come in mid-level, are terrible. They have no empathy for people coming up in the business. I enjoy in my room, my audio booth. I have an open door policy with like PAs and stuff coming into the business because they're wanting. I don't talk down to them. I was in that position. I totally understand it. So I'm hoping that's kind of how, that's why you got to put in your dues. Have a good work ethic and be enjoyable to be around. You got to be a little early. You don't have to, but just be at your job, do your thing, have a good work ethic. On every crew or every show or every wherever, you'll find, it takes a little while to find someone who is a little open and more eager to talk to you than others. Trust me, there's a whole bunch of cranky old guys and women, guys and girls in this business that won't tell you anything because they're afraid you're going to take their job. Personally, me, as I get closer to retirement, I want you to take my job. So please ask questions. I'm always one of those guys that's an open book. Ask questions and be engaged in the answer. When you talk to these people, ask them, if you ask them a question and they tell you something that you think is wrong, or you think differently, just listen to them and maybe it'll make sense. Because the guy that you might be talking to, or girl, the guy you're talking to, if they've been in the business a long time, did a lot more with a lot less than you'll ever do. You know, the fact that those are some of those guys were cutting film and cutting audio tape and making shows and making major movies that you watch today, and they're incredibly done, but they weren't done with computers. They were done the old-fashioned way. That's how they did it. This is another one somebody asked me about one time, and I added this. Don't be surprised that the gear you work on is older than you. Television production companies and networks and stations make an investment in technology, and they use it as long as they can because it's money. When you buy cameras, you buy, on Let's Make a Deal, we record the shows on what's called XD Cam, which is a disc format recorder. We've been using them for 10 years, and because we do 175 shows a season, and we use about 11 disc or XD Cam tapes a show. Well, we probably have 2,000, XD Cam disc in stock, and we're using the same ones that we did 10 years ago. So, and they're high def. They're based on the Blu-ray, kind of the Blu-ray format for DVDs. But that's what we use. That's still a very common format in the industry. So don't be surprised. You might go to college and be working on right cameras, and then next thing you know, your first job, you're on an older Sony handheld, DV recorder. Anytime you get a job or do something, thank them for what you do. Be appreciative, but not too much. It's kind of a happy medium. You don't want to like, well, thank you. Just thank them and let them know that you're happy to be part of the team. And it is a team. Again, I'm saying it is a team. By the way, it's a creative industry, and there are no rules, but there are best practices. So when you learn something, there might be 20 ways to do it, and 19, they might all be right. It's how you get there. As we always say, whatever ends up on the monitor or the screen, or whatever comes out of the speakers, if that is good, it doesn't really matter how you get there. But there are what are called best practices. Which you learn. There are things you don't do, or things that there are rules, not rules, but things you have to follow. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean you have to do it exactly. When you're new in this business, there are 1,000 people, I always tell people, waiting to take your job. So that's why you need to do all that, because there's a lineup of PA. Your first jobs are going to be PAs or whatever you're going to do. If you don't know something, ask. Don't lie that you don't know it. Big thing. I know people that are afraid to say, I don't understand that and I don't know it, because they think they're going to get, no. When you say, I don't understand that, I would explain it to you, and now we both know that you know it. So don't be afraid to do that. That is much better than ever doing something wrong. So try to do that. When opportunity presents itself, pounce. In other words, sometimes something, and you gotta have a little, drive, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna make that stab. Don't be afraid to take a chance to move on. If you're a PA in the industry and your first job, it's a very transit business. And if you get a chance to move up. It's how it works. Don't worry about it. And don't worry if people get lucky breaks. It happens all the time because someone's in the right place or whatever. Your time will come, so don't worry about it. But you got to be a little active, not passive, but not too active. Again, remember, it's entertainment, and it is a business. It is money. There's millions of dollars online on shows and stuff like that. The star generally doesn't want to hang with you. It's just how it is. They're gone. I know on my show, I walk out after the show, he's already gone. He's not one to hang with you. And there are a few exceptions, but so it's one of those. And learn some psychology, because it's a business of egos, and the most are not deserved. There are a lot of people that are in positions that I don't know how they got there, but they got there, whatever. And I go, remember the guy at the circus, and this is my favorite. What? Give up show business? So that's there are people that they don't care what their job is, they're working in a business. So, couple quick some stories that I'm going to tell you because again, I got another 5 or so minutes, and these are true stories. I'm just going to tell you some stories about people who I know that moved up because they thought outside the box. So from PA to EP, from production assistant to executive producer. Many of you might know a gentleman by the name of Dick Clark. He pretty much ran Hollywood for years. Well, this friend of mine, Dan, who was a PA for Dick Clark, and I forget what show they were working, but there was about 5 PAs, and every day the PAs had to go get him coffee. Well, when Dan went to Starbucks and got his coffee, he would bring it back and throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds to heat it up and then hand it to him. Well, after a couple of weeks, Dick Clark goes to him and goes, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Dan." And he goes, "How come you give me coffee and it's hot and everybody else it's warm?" And he just go, "I don't know, whatever, Well, now Dick Clark knew him and he ended up promoting him. And he's now he's not even an EP. He's vice president of daytime television for Fremantle Television. So the little thing, all he did was microwave a coffee and that got him, it just moved it up. No other stuff. Like if you're an editor, learn Photoshop. A guy I know who worked actually at SCV TV with us was working on a show that I actually was mixing. And he was a PA. And he was the guy that was basically driving videotapes and drives back and forth between the control room and the production facility, the edit facility. And one day we were getting all the graphics for the videos the stills were all out of format. They were the wrong format. And they were having a problem trying to get them back from post. And it was just a madhouse. And he goes, "Well, I can fix that." He took a gamble because he knew Photoshop. And they were so busy, they just threw him the little thumb drive and say, "Fix it." He loads in this thing, goes to Photoshop, reformats it, sends it back to them, and it worked. And now that moment, he went from being a PA to an associate producer, basically a post AP. That fast, because he knew Photoshop and he was able, and he took a gamble. So that's what I'm saying. That's an opportunity. He went for it, and he made it. Others' misfortune. Yeah, unfortunately, you get a lot of work because someone's sick or injured. My first job mixing television, mixing for ABC Sports, was because the mixer, we're doing a basketball game, and the mixer fell down the stairs of the video truck and broke his leg 30 minutes before we went live on the air nationwide. And I immediately went from being the A2 to the A1. And did I do a great job? Nope. But they didn't have anybody else. And this was a nationwide show. It was called an A Game for ABC. And that's how I moved up. I never was an A2 again. I literally made that move and because he broke his leg. And so opportunities, it's sad, but that's how it is. Just pointing it out. If you want to work in the industry, whether you want to do like a craft, like audio, video, any utility, like learn how to coil cable. I can't tell you how to if you don't know how to over and under, move on, because that'll get you thrown off a show or get you hired. If you know how to do it, it's gonna be one of the first things they ask you. Learn the lingo. This is a fun little thing we'll do here. It's a strange language, and you don't have to be a thesaurus, but there are a lot of little weird terms that you will learn, and I'll explain why it's good to know a few of them. All these names are names that you will see on are standard in any studio. And the reason I'm going to say this is I'm going to say what Chiron is. Chiron, everybody has one of these in their student television studios at their schools. It's the graphics device. It's what does the lower thirds. But it's an industry, it's like saying Kleenex. So Chiron is that. And the reason is, if you're a PA or starting and someone hands you a script and says, "Can someone take this to the Chiron operator?" You know where that goes, and you can raise your hand and do that. So PL stands for private line, which is actually, or party line, excuse me, which is the intercom system. ESU is probably what you all do is the first thing in the morning. It's called engineering setup. It's the first thing we do on any show that makes sure everything works. It's testing all the gear. And Elvis is a video hard disk playback system. The term fax is to test out. You fax out a piece of gear. MOS, and that's not man on street. It stands for without sound, because Otto Preminger, who was German, could not say the term without sound rather than SOT, sound on tape. Well, he couldn't say without sound, so he said without sound, and it stuck. So when you see MOS, that's without sound. A cowboy is a video shot that basically is a shot of from the top of the head to basically the guns. If you think of a cowboy, would be right below the waist, so you can see the guns. That's called a cowboy. So it's a term used. C-47 is pretty standard. That's a clothes hanger. Stinger is an extension cord, and a baby spud is a mount for a light. Again, these are all terms you hear. They're weird, but welcome. And that pretty much applies in every studio, not just entertainment. It's news, it's film, it's whatever. Those are all pretty things. A couple last things. Create a professional website, get a YouTube channel, learn search engine optimization, and get people to find you. As you produce better videos, get rid of the older ones, the junk. So that's the best thing I can say about that. And then I'm gonna end with this. A great place to start in the industry, and I did it and it was fun, is sports. First of all, it's fun. But second of all, you do it every game is a setup and a teardown. And you will, if you want to work in any of the technical end of the business, you will learn it by how to connect stuff and how everything interconnects. And it's basically a school. So that's not a bad place to go. So with that said, and I look at the clock, I'm going to get rid of this, and I am back, I believe. Am I not?
Yes, you are.
So at this point, I hope I didn't, again, we only had 35 seconds, so I kind of rushed through it. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. I hope some of it made some sense and you got a few things out of it. I know they recorded this, so I guess it will be available at some point to be, if you want to look at some point, something I talked about, or get any of the graphs I put up, feel free. So I guess the question is, if anybody has any specific questions. I see someone said it was super helpful. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anybody have any questions or anything? It could be anything about what I do, feel free. What is the name of equipment you carry and how much do you take with you from game to game? Most stuff that when you do sports, as you start in the business, most of the major equipment's provided. It's on the video truck, so you don't provide it. What you do need to do is get some things that I call for. I have a tool, basically it's a Pelican case. It's basically my toolbox. It's got a bunch of stuff from adapters and video and audio, mostly audio because that's what I do. I have things like, it's called a Q-Box, which is an audio listening device that allows you to test audio, and then I have a cable tester. I have a multimeter, basic tools, flashlights, the standard. Nothing. I don't really take specific gear because it's provided for you. Everything you don't. Generally, it's all there. So you just bring, and I bring my laptop because I want to be able to surf the internet when I'm doing anything. So, what's the best type of internships today? I would say it's the best. The best type is in the field that you want to do. If you don't, then it doesn't matter because you can pretty much take any you can sample the field, as they say. But if you want to work in something specific, try to do an internship at someone near you, or someone. Well, it doesn't even have to be near you because you can travel, but where you can intern in that specific. Like I said, if you want to work on documentaries, then find a production company that does documentaries and intern there. Because again, that is where you're going to end up probably being the first place you send a resume to when you graduate. So I hope that helps. Do you recommend going to film school? I would say it depends on what you want to do. I I would say if you truly want to direct and like get to that level, yeah. And again, film schools are great. They're just expensive, but I'm not against them. But and I assume you're talking about places, some of the places that are. I don't like what I would call some of what are these for-profit colleges. I'm not a big fan of, and I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just not a big fan of, like Musicians Institute and Full Sail and blah. Because if you're gonna, here's what I recommend. This has always been my thought. If you're gonna spend $40,000 to go to school, take it and put it in the bank. Take 20 of it and go buy yourself a bunch of gear. Like maybe if you want to be an audio, buy audio gear, buy camera gear, and do stuff and work with it that way. And then go to community college, learn some basic stuff, learn the basics, and do that. And then when you're done in 2 years, you're going to have the gear maybe it's worth about $10,000, but you still have gear, and you're going to have $20,000 in the bank. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of those kind of Musicians Institute. I know people have gone there and some are very good, but I think I think there are better options. And I think, save your money when you can, because it's unfortunately at the beginning, it's going to be a little bit work-wise tight. So anybody else? I hope, I'm just telling you how it is. I'm saying if you want to go, and that's fine. Everyone's situation is different. But again, depending on what you want to do, if you want to be, I know some of the best people, they got their degrees from state colleges. So it was more inexpensive and more, and they're still doing fine. Again, there's no one way, there's 100 ways. So, all right. Anything else? Well, I guess not. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I usually do a couple of these when we do the convention. I also do an audio one. It's called Audio 101, but I'm not doing it this year, but that is very audio specific. But all I can say is, if it's going to be it's a hard business sometimes, a nut to crack to get into. But if you really, really want to, if this is your passion, you'll be working the worst job and love it, And I've seen guys, I talk to executive producers, I'm standing there looking at the set, and there's PAs and they're sweeping and they're cleaning after a show. And there's that PA, he goes, see that? He told me this, he goes, see that guy out there? He was vacuuming the floor with as much enthusiasm than as if he were doing a major job. And he was the first one to get moved up. So is it good to have a diverse background on what type of thing? Yeah, that's why I always say learn it all, because I know lighting, I know video, not to the level I know audio, but I know all of that. So when I go out on the stage and I'm having to deal with the video team or the lighting director, we can have an intelligent conversation. And so it's good to know everything. You don't need to be an expert and tell them how to do their job. Nope. But you can have a conversation. So when I look at a light, I go, is that Parnell are my speakers in the way of that Parnell or something like that? So the more diverse, and yes, he never hurts you in whatever you do. Knowing kind of a general knowledge is great. So. I guess is that it?
I don't see any hands or Q&A questions, so
Okay.
Nothing else. I want to thank you, Michael, for coming in and speaking today. And I hope everyone enjoyed that. And thank you for coming out to this session. And we will see you in the next sessions. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.